Bro, ever been insulted and ended up earning everyone's respect? Someone drops a line that shoots your blood pressure through the roof. The whole room goes dead silent. Everyone's watching, waiting to see if you're gonna explode or hold your ground like a damn rock. You've got comebacks lined up, locked and loaded, sitting right at the edge of your tongue. But pause for a second. This is the moment to remember what Marcus Aurelius once said. Silence is the best response to anger. See, smart men don't need to raise their voice. They don't win by shouting. They make their opponent choke on their own words, with calm, with razor-sharp logic, and sometimes, with nothing more than a quiet, knowing smirk. In this video, you're gonna learn 8 powerful responses inspired by Stoic wisdom, not just to help you keep your cool, but to let the other person unravel themselves right in front of you. Because this isn't just about reacting. This is how you take control of any conversation. From office meetings, to tough talks with your boss, to awkward moments with your friends, or your partner, silence alone isn't enough. Responding the right way, that's where real strength kicks in. Stick around till the end, because this just might be the video that changes how you handle every conflict from now on, bro. Ever been yelled at and somehow said thank you? Sounds crazy, right? Like someone's throwing verbal punches at you, and you just reach out, shake their hand, and say, "Hey, thanks for sharing that with me." Sounds like you lost your damn mind. But nah, that's not weakness. That's the highest level of composure. Let me tell you a story. I used to live next to this dude, the kind of neighbor who'd lose it if a single leaf fell into his yard. One evening, after a long day, I'm carrying takeout back home, dead tired. Out of nowhere, he storms out of his house like a missile, points straight at me, and yells, "Your dog's been barking all morning." I couldn't sleep at all. What kind of people are you? Instantly, my whole body heats up. My brain loads every comeback possible. You think I got time to train my dog 24/7? You think I'm not tired too? Maybe mind your own damn business. But then, I remembered something Epictetus said. It's not what happens to you that upsets you. It's how you react to it. So I stopped, took one deep breath, and then I said, calmly, "Hey, thanks for telling me. I didn't realize it was that bad." He froze. The red on his face started fading. He sighed, rubbed his neck, and said, "Yeah, I used to have a dog too. I actually know a pretty good trainer if you ever need one." 2 weeks later, that same neighbor texted me the trainer's number. From a hostile neighbor to an ally. So, what really happened here? When you respond to aggression with gratitude, you literally disrupt their emotional wiring. Science calls it the reticular activating system, the brain's attention filter. It expects a fight, but you don't give it fuel. You burn their battle script. With calm composure, saying thank you doesn't mean you agree. It means you're mature enough to set emotions aside, strong enough to see the frustration behind their anger, and wise enough not to walk into a war you don't even need to win. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "The people who hurt you can't truly touch you unless you let them into your mind." That's not avoidance. That's the ultimate kind of victory. Not victory over others, but victory over yourself. Think about it. How many fights in your life weren't really about what was said, but because someone felt unheard and someone else couldn't control themselves? You want to be the third kind, the one who listens without losing himself. Saying thank you doesn't make you soft. It shows you're strong enough not to let a passing emotion define your worth. But what if the person isn't yelling? They're just trying to outsmart you. They're not emotional. They're logical. They're calm, but you can tell they're trying to make you look small. This is where you use a different weapon, just as sharp, but way lighter. You say, "I see your point. Help me understand your reasoning." A simple question, but it can freeze the other person in place. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. Because sometimes The most powerful thing you can do is not to argue, not to fight, but to make the other person expose their own weakness. By asking the kind of question they never expected. So stay with me, bro. If this story hit something in you, if it reminded you of a time you lost your cool, then what's coming next is the part that'll change how you deal with conflict forever. We're not here to silence people. We're here to lead them with calm, with clarity, and with absolute control. Ever been in a meeting? Bro, you spent days prepping, running on coffee and tight deadlines. You show up, confident, focused, you're 3 slides in and boom, some dude cuts in. Honestly, I think you're dreaming. This idea is just not realistic. And suddenly the whole room's dead silent. Everyone turns to look at you. Your brain goes DEFCON 1. What's the default reaction? Argue? Throw data at him? Defend your degree like it's a Marvel shield? Or, you breathe. You look him dead in the eye and say, I hear you. Could you help me understand which part you feel isn't feasible? Now that right there, that's a power move. It sounds simple, almost soft, but it's one of the sharpest tools in Stoicism's arsenal. You don't attack, you expose. You don't flex, you disarm. This actually happened to me. Big meeting, high stakes pitch, 2 months of work into a marketing project. Just got to slide number 3 and David, Mr. Knows-It-All, hits me with, this plan? Completely unrealistic. Seems like you don't get the market. Damn, bro. It felt like a punch to the jaw. My neck tensed up. I was this close to clapping back. You serious? I interviewed 12 customers. I spoke with 5 partners. What did you do, David? But instead I paused, took a breath, then calmly asked, thanks for that. What specific part do you think doesn't align with the current market? He froze, eyes darting, mouth fumbling. Well, it's more of a gut feeling. I just don't think it fits. Do you have any data or feedback to back that up? Not really, just a vibe. That right there? That wasn't a counterattack. That was a full-on unraveling. Marcus Aurelius once said, if someone can show me my mistake and correct me, I will gladly change. The truth is what I seek. You don't ask questions to win. You ask to find the truth. And if the truth's on your side, it speaks for itself. If it's not, you still win. Because you stayed composed, open, and in control. From a psychology perspective, this tactic shuts down the fight or flight reflex. No fuel, no fire. Instead, your calm response activates the prefrontal cortex, the rational brain. It forces them to think instead of react. Most criticism, it's emotional noise dressed up as logic. And when you respond with genuine curiosity, you make that noise obvious. But here's the catch, you have to mean it. Your tone is everything. If you ask sarcastically, it's a jab. But if you ask sincerely, you stay in the lead. And sometimes, let's be real, they're right. Not because they hate you, but because you missed something. Because you didn't listen long enough. And when you finally hear it, you can look them in the eye and say, you're right. And here's what I'm going to do. That's what a real man does. He doesn't flex with ego. He flips the board, owns the mistake, and fixes it before anyone else gets the chance to drag him. That's leadership. That's emotional jujitsu. That's stoicism, bruh. And that's where we're heading next. Taking ownership with zero defensiveness. Standing tall, looking someone dead in the eye, and saying, you're right. Here's what I'll do, if you're still with me. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to win with depth. Let's keep going. There's a truth hardly anyone wants to hear. Not all criticism is wrong. Sometimes, people roast you because they're seeing something you don't want to face. They don't hate you. They're reflecting a reality you're avoiding. In that moment, your ego wants to rise up, wants to fight back. But what you really need is strength. Real strength. I remember this one meeting with a client. A project ran over schedule. A few deadlines were missed. In the meeting, the director over there flat out said, I don't trust your team. You've missed deadlines before. This isn't the first time. The room froze. My team looked at me, waiting for me to snap back, waiting for me to defend my honor. And in those first few seconds, my mind had a list of excuses ready. Scope changed by the client. Budget was unclear. Our dev caught COVID. But then I remembered Seneca's words. It is a great thing to know your vices. I nodded, looked the client in the eyes, and said, "You're right. And here's what I'm going to do now. From this week on, I'll send you a progress report every Friday. I'll personally oversee this project instead of delegating it. And if needed, I'll reduce our fees to make up for the delays. No blame. No dodge. No flexing credentials. Just own it. Act. Lead." Psychology calls this disarming honesty. Honesty so powerful it robs an attacker of ammunition. When you take responsibility first, there's nothing left for them to use against you. Because you've already aligned yourself with responsibility. You stand with them, not against them. Picture it, you're the one attacked in a debate. You throw a punch. They don't block. They don't counter. They nod and say, "You're right. I was wrong there. Here's how I'll fix it." What do? Do you argue, or do you respect them? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be ye one. Stop defending how good you are. Live it through your actions." Words can be dismissed, but your behavior, that resonates 100 times louder. And the best part, this isn't surrender. It's taking control of the narrative. You don't let others decide whether you're right or wrong. You choose your position and act on it before anyone forces you to. That is real power. Now, let's bring this into daily life. When your partner says, "You're always late," "I feel like I'm not a priority," don't say, "I've been busy." Say, "You're right. I'll start setting reminders and leave 15 minutes earlier from now on." When your boss says, "You're missing details in your reports," don't defend. Say, "You're right. From now on, I'll have a teammate double check before I submit." And remember, even when you act fair, calm, and responsible, some people won't be satisfied. They'll dig. They'll push. They'll try to get under your skin. What then? You don't argue. You don't grovel. You just stop, look them square in the eye, and say, "Pause. Thank you for that perspective." Because sometimes, the winning move is silence. The strongest response, the one they didn't expect. That's what I want to talk about next. Silent victory. How your quiet strength can silence the room. If you've ever been in these moments, congratulations. You're not trying to become stoic. You're already living like someone with real backbone. Stay with me. We're just getting started. James, have you ever been attacked at a bar table? Not a sincere critique, but a line so sharp it makes everyone laugh, except you leading a team. Man, your face needs to stay in the trenches. The room bursts in laughter. The vibe shifts from chill to mocking. You feel your cheeks burn. Your beer glass shakes in your hand. Part of you wants to slam it down. Another part wants to walk away. But if you do either, you lose. Because you just let someone else control your emotions. This moment right here is where silence isn't weakness. It's the most beautiful knockout punch. I've been there too. Recently got promoted to manage a team in a tech company. We're throwing a celebration that night. But also, apparently, someone wanted to pull me back down to earth. Drunk buddy, red-faced, leans in and says, "I don't get why they put you in charge. You don't even look like a leader." Silence. A few beats. One dude laughs. Another sips his drink to avoid eye contact. I sit there. I know all eyes are watching, not because he's right, but because they're waiting to see how I respond. I don't laugh. I don't argue. I don't raise my voice. I just pause, look him dead in the eye, and say, "Thanks for sharing that perspective." Then I keep eating, switch the topic. I didn't lower myself. I didn't humiliate him. I just stood calm and shifted the room. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest power is often the one that remains quiet." True power isn't about constant replies, it's about controlling your non-reaction. From a psychology lens, when you snap back immediately, you fire up your amygdala, that emotional, reactive center. But when you pause, you're letting your prefrontal cortex, the logic, controlled zone, speak. That moment of silence forces your attacker to hear their own words. If they're wrong, they'll cringe. If they're right, you still hold your stance. Examples in everyday life. Someone at the gym whispers, "Your workout's just for show." Gives you don't snap, you don't smirk. You turn quietly and say, "Thanks for that perspective." At a family dinner, a relative says, "Your career path is meaningless." Gives you don't unload your 5-year plan. You tilt your head and softly nod. "Thanks for sharing that viewpoint." Silence done right is a response that forces people to reflect. It doesn't make noise, but it commands attention. But sometimes, you want more than to shut down the attack. You want to shift the fight to what matters. You want to see if there's something worth learning. That's when you ask, "What you said got me thinking. How can I do better here?" Because after standing firm in the fire, you don't just survive, you lead the direction. So next time someone tries to push your buttons, don't shout, don't storm off. Pause, then ask. Because the sharpest sword is not what you wield. It's the question you don't expect someone to answer. Catch you in the next one, where silence isn't an escape, but your greatest response. Ever had someone you trust speak a soft jab that cuts deeper than a full-blown attack? It doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from someone you believed in. I remember the first time I met my ex's dad. That afternoon was overcast, felt like a silent warning. I poured tea. He cracked a nod and then said, "Your work. It seems unstable. I'm not sure how far my daughter can go choosing someone like that." Not harsh, not attacking directly, but that line, laden with assumptions and judgments. The room went quiet. My girlfriend bit her lip. I looked at my teacup. I could smell the tension in the air. I knew I could argue, defend, counter every point, but I also knew I didn't come here to win a debate. I came to connect, to build, not demolish. So I looked at him, soft but direct, and said, "What you just said makes me think. If you were me, what would you change to become someone more trustworthy?" He didn't answer right away. There was a pause. He set down the teacup, leaned back in his chair, then said, "You know what? At least you had the composure to ask that. That's not a bad place to start." This isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about redirecting, turning passive criticism into active dialogue. You're not defending. You're opening a path to growth. You're not insisting you're perfect. You're showing you're willing to improve. Seneca once said, "While we teach, we learn." The question you ask isn't just to learn more. It's to teach others how to speak with you, with intention and respect. Real-life applications. When a co-worker says, "Your delegation style creates chaos in the team," don't say, "Schedules shifted, deadlines changed." That's life. Instead ask, "What you just said makes me think. Where should I improve how I divide work?" Or when your partner sighs, "You're always there for everyone else, but not for me." Don't fire back, "I've been doing my best." Look into their eyes and ask, "I hear you. Where should I start to make you feel prioritized?" When you steer the conversation toward improvement, you don't dodge the truth. You pick the fastest path to solving it. Because what hurts most in an argument isn't the words. It's the feeling that no one bothered to hear you. So sometimes, listening doesn't start with silence. It starts with a question born of sincerity. What should I change here? Not every question will land. Sometimes, the other person only wants to throw opinions, not hear yours back. That's fine. You don't have to argue. You just offer a question that forces them to reflect. And in those moments, you pull out one of Stoicism's finest lines. "That's an interesting perspective. What made you think that way?" See you in the next section. This time we're not defending, we're guiding others to see themselves. Have you ever been judged not on truth, but on stereotypes? Like, you open your mouth to talk about a project, and someone immediately slaps a label on you. This guy must just talk. All theory, no action. This actually happened at a coaching workshop I was invited to. A guy stood up, half laughing, and loudly said in front of the group, "Bro, your advice sounds fine, but have you ever really lived a hard life? Or do you just read books and lecture others on what they should do?" If it were me back then, I'd have snapped back. I'd have served him a speech about empathy, my own scars, all the shit I'd survived. But that day, I chose a different path. I stood quiet for 2 seconds, looked straight at him, and said, "That's an interesting perspective. What makes you think that?" Dead stop. A moment of silence that cuts deep. He stammers, "Well, it's just, I've heard too many people give great advice and never do anything." You see that? When you ask back, you force someone to shine a flashlight on themselves. Often they're not talking about you at all. They're projecting their own cracks, their own fear. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When someone does wrong, it's more a reflection of their character than yours." So true. The way someone criticizes is a mirror. If you respond too fast, you only see the shadow of your own anger. But if you pause, ask, reflect, you see something much deeper. Many people judge because they are hurting. In psychology, this reflex is called projection. When someone dumps their fears, doubts, insecurities onto you, when you ask, "What makes you think that?" you force them to turn the spotlight back on their own assumptions. They can't just throw stones, they have to explain their masonry. That question may sound soft, but in truth, it's a stealth trap. It either elevates them, or it makes them stumble on their own words. Either way, you remain the calmest person in the room. And yes, sometimes that calm has to wait for the right moment. Not every jab deserves an immediate response. That brings us to the next insight. Choose when you respond. I'll respond once I have a fuller view. There was this one time, chill Sunday afternoon, stadium bleachers, cold beer in hand, cheering for the local team with a group of close buddies. All vibes, all laughs, until one of my longtime friends, already a bit buzzed, turned to me and dropped a line that made the whole group go dead quiet. "I don't get why. You always act like you know shit. Every time you speak, it sounds like you're trying to school the rest of us." I gave him a dry smile, but inside, damn bro, that hit. Not because it wasn't true, but because it came out of nowhere. And if I had responded right then, I know I would have said something I'd regret. Instead of reacting on impulse, I just shook my head, looked him in the eye, and said, "I'll respond to that when I've got more perspective." Not silence to avoid, silence to see clearly. Because the right response doesn't come from a bruised ego. It comes after you've stepped out of the emotional storm. See, Stoicism never teaches us to bottle things up just to explode later. It teaches us to control when and how we respond. Epictetus once said, "It's not the things themselves that disturb us, but the way we look at them." So before you snap back, ask yourself, am I reacting from truth? Or am I reacting from hurt? Science even has a name for this, emotional hijack. That's when your amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm, takes the wheel and kicks your logic to the curb. But the second you pause, you cut the wire. You take back control. And the crazy part, most of the time, when I gave myself space, I realized the comment wasn't even wrong. It was just said at the wrong time, or the wrong way. But the core of it, it was real. By delaying your response, you give yourself a chance to mature the thought, soften your tone, and deepen your connection. So next time someone says something that makes your blood boil, try this: pause, breathe, and say, "I'll respond to that when I've got more clarity." Because that's not weakness, that's strength in disguise. It's power held, not thrown. And that leads us to one of the biggest lessons of all. Let's talk about what happens after the pause. When you do choose to speak, not just how, but what you say, if you're ready to keep going, bro. The next part is for you. Choose your words to lead. I don't stoop to win. I stay grounded to lead. Let's go. Kenzie. Have you ever heard someone talk behind your back, and the words hit you like a sucker punch out of nowhere? Not to your face, no direct beef, but the words still found their way around, like smoke slipping under doors, until they reached your ears, dressed up like the truth. Last week, I stopped by my usual barbershop, the spot my boys and I jokingly call the underground news station of the block. You know the kind. One rumor in that place spreads faster than CNN breaking news. I had just sat down in the chair when the barber leaned in and said, "Yo, bro, heard some dude's been saying you pulled some shady move in that collab last month. You hear about that yet?" That sentence, sharp as a knife, not cause I felt guilty, but because I knew this was an emotional trap. Part of me wanted to stand up, grab my phone, and call that dude like, "Yo, what the hell did you say about me?" But guess what I did instead? I sat still, didn't say a word. I looked at the barber through the mirror, gave a calm nod, and said, "I can't control what people say, but I can control how I respond." And that moment felt like holding the reins of a wild horse losing its damn mind inside me. That our brains, they're wired to flip that fight or flight switch the moment we feel attacked, whether it's in your face or behind your back. But a Stoic doesn't punch, doesn't run. A Stoic stands still. Epictetus said, "We have no power over what others say, but we have absolute power over how we choose to respond." And that choice right there is where true dignity lies. Modern psychology calls it the reaction gap, the space between stimulus and response. People with emotional discipline, they don't react immediately. They create space, a breath, a pause, a moment to choose the wiser road. And in that pause, you hold your power. You don't let someone else play you like a puppet. You don't let their drama become your storyline. You know who you are. You know what's true. And you know dignity doesn't need to yell to be seen. That's not weakness. That's strength with balance, like a suspension bridge. It doesn't stand tall cause it doesn't sway. It stands cause it knows when to sway and when to hold firm. And hey, if you're still heated after the fact, write it out, journal it, draft an email you'll never send, call your best bro and vent it all out. But don't let your first clap back define the man you are. Your response, filtered through calm, will always cut deeper than rage ever could. I don't react when I'm hurt. I respond when I understand. And when you live that way, other people's words stop being chains around your chest. You start to see clearly. Every time you choose dignity over drama, you're not just avoiding a fight, you're laying down bricks for your inner peace. And sometimes, when you stay silent, the world speaks up for you. Bro, if you've ever had to swallow the burn of sarcasm, if you've ever gone quiet in a room thick with judgment, if you've ever stayed calm when your ego was begging to explode, then you know silence isn't weakness. It's power. When you say, "Thanks for that perspective," when you ask, "What can I improve here?" when you choose not to react now, but respond at the right time, you're not just controlling a conversation, you're mastering yourself. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius. And you know what? Sometimes victory doesn't come from a sharp comeback. It comes from the quiet that forces others to look at themselves. Because peace is power, silence is strength, and clarity is freedom. If you saw yourself in any of these stories, if you're learning to live deliberately, with intention, with direction, then welcome home. You're not walking this path alone. We, the men learning to own ourselves, own our reactions, own our lives, we show up here every damn day, not just to live, but to lead. And if anything I said today resonates with your growth journey, hit subscribe, not to follow me, but to walk together like a tribe. Because like Marcus said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And one last thing to remember, we all carry invisible battles. Let's carry each other. Catch you in the next one, where strength isn't loud. It's steady in every response you choose with intention.